give it a second because I've seen it cut out as much as like the first 10 seconds of audio, and it just pisses me off. So welcome to Bad on Purpose. The name of the show, the point of the show. It's see a lot of people in the community that partially recognize the intentionality of the scripting in this reality, and yet a lot still take on this false responsibility for what's occurring, right? Feeling guilt, shame, thinking that any of this shit matters, thinking that somehow you're seeing a scripted reality, but your life isn't part of that scripted reality. That it is. It's entirely a setup. There's nothing that occurs here that isn't part of a well orchestrated formula to generate the effect that it has, the anxiety, the guilt, the fear, the not knowing, the lack of awareness, the miasma of layers of illusion and deception that hide the simple truth. And the truth really is simple. It is so simple that it's all on purpose, that everything that occurs is reoccurring. No one's life is unique to them. We are all being put through scripts. And if we were able to communicate clearly and authentically and honestly, but that comes with authentic observation. So, why is it that most don't see the simple truth of this realm, that it is all on purpose, that it is all scripted, that the effect is the purpose, that the pain, the suffering, the misery, it's all being generated and regenerated over and over, recurring loops and scripts on purpose. Why do so few see it? The answer is simple, just like the truth is simple, that it's all on purpose. Why can't people see it? Because the elaborate lie hides the simple truth. The many layers of being concerned about survival, what others think, those are actually two very tied in things to each other. What others think is tied into the survival narrative of this place, the social demographics and hierarchies of this realm. And so when people are focused externally on what others think, on how they have to operate to fit into this scripted reality in order to survive in that avatar they're in, it comes with a lot of lies, a lot of untruths. The number one untruth is that any of this matters, that any of this has any bearing on who we actually are. The scripted character and the true being are two completely separate entities. They have no relation, no correlation other than the scripted character, the scripted life is only there for the purpose of harvesting and extracting energy, focus, attention, intention from the real eternal being. That's the whole point of all of it. It's simple. What its purpose is simple. The many layers of illusion is the deception. And why most don't see it is because they're in the illusion and they haven't been honest with themselves. Because someone can't see what this place is at the simple level, at the obvious level of, oh, the same things are repeating over and over and over again. That can't be an accident. That's on purpose. No one ever looks for the design. They just want the quick effect, the quick hit of dopamine, of pleasure, of satisfaction in this fucking place, of false comfort and security, false safety. There is no safety here. The only safety is when a being can stand up for themselves internally and eternally outside of this script, recognizing that it's all a setup and none of it matters. None of it has any bearing. I saw a video earlier talking about, I think it was like, I can't remember the philosopher, But it was basically saying, the more useful you are to this world, the more this world steals your soul. That's fucking simple truth right there. The more you become useful to a false, artificial, holographic matrix, you have to give yourself away. To get anything here, to get all the fake shit in this world, you've got to give away the only thing you really got: yourself, your essence, your energy, your focus, your attention to it, the external. All of the external is the same thing. It's masquerading as different independent components and moving parts, but it's not. It's all the same thing. So if you look at the external as one thing, including the body, it's all one thing. Look at the effect that that one thing has had on the only part of you that is real: your energy, your essence, the mind that is separate from this reality, the mind that goes on beyond, the awareness that goes on beyond all of this. So if that's all that really exists, is the eternal part of each and every one of us, and then the entropic, degrading over time external, they're two separate things, but there's only two things. There's only two different kinds of things here: the eternal and the illusion. And the illusion is only here to steal from the eternal. So it's ridiculous to me that I see so many in this community that still get hung up on the external factors of this place, as if they have any bearing or say as to how that goes. The only way that you have a say in how good your external is how much of yourself you're willing to give up, how much of the true, authentic, real essence that you're willing to exchange for a false, entropic, degrading reality. That's the only actual way that you have the choice of how shitty or how good this is. You give yourself away to that which is going to be gone over time anyway. Will you exchange what is real and eternal for a bunch of fake bullshit and become one with the fake bullshit? Because that's all it wants. It wants integration. It wants no resistance. Because when what we are resists this system, resists entities that aren't like us, that are binary, entropic, parasitic intelligence, when we resist that, we have a much greater effect than what we can currently perceive. It needs us. The external needs us. We don't need the external. It's all one thing. It's all orchestrated from one intelligence, an intelligence that knows that it is not able to force us directly. It needs us invested and misidentified with something that we're not, pouring energy into something that we're not, something that is actually a part of it, so it can sustain itself. It's all a setup. There is no blaming yourself that is legitimate or authentic, no matter how much it seems like it, no matter how intricate the setup was to con you into thinking that you could have done something different. You could have done it better. It's my fault in this way or that small way. No, bullshit. Lies. Deception. Everything in the external is observing, because it's all one thing. It is observing, directing, redirecting, writing the script, doing everything it can to put us in a loop of self blame, self doubt, thinking that the external is somehow a reflection of us. It's not. It's a lie. It's a scam. There is nothing that I can look out and see that is a reflection of eternity. Not one damn thing. None of it. None of this place is eternal because it's not real. The only thing that's real is that which is eternal. Everything else is just part of that elaborate setup. And it's not here for learning and growing. It's here to feed. Just like a yellow jacket's nest. They're not there to sting animals and teach them lessons and eat them alive. That's not what they're there for. They're there to consume and expand. And when they've eaten out in an area, they move. That is a reflection of something else. Do you take great pleasure in going and hollowing out the energy of beings and then moving on to the next victim? Is that your deepest desire, to go and steal as much as you can from something that doesn't know that you're stealing from it? Is that what really gets your gears going? Well, then you're a fucking parasite. But if that's not you, then you're not of this place. Nothing that it's ever done means anything. It doesn't matter. Nothing it's ever set you up to experience is your fault. It's a scam. The most elaborate scam. The lie is complex. It needs a lot of layers. It needs a lot of insulation between what is real and the false intelligence orchestrating this entire show. Because if we didn't have that insulation, if there wasn't so much separation from what the Eternals are and what the parasitic intelligence is that's governing this place, if there was no insulate separating multitudes of layers, we'd see through it instantly. We would recognize instantly. It's a recognition that is deeper than even, I would say, intuition. It's deeper. It is just seeing what is. And the only thing that keeps most from seeing exactly what is the layers upon layers of interwoven illusion that work so well together that they seem legitimate, they seem real, they seem concrete, they seem to be something that they're not. Just like blaming oneself for a script they didn't write, that they've only been conned into thinking they have some level of control through particular actions in a designed environment. Designed environment. Designed to do what? Only one thing. Harvest energy. That is the point of everything here. It has no other purpose. Harvest energy. And how does it do that? It needs to hide what it's doing. It needs to hide that which is benefiting from the extraction of our energy. Because if it couldn't hide, we would gain instant recognition of the very distinct difference between what we are as creative, compassionate, loving, empathetic, beyond magical beings and a cowardly fucking worm that seeks only to steal what it doesn't have. Eternity. That's it. Simple. The lie is complex. The truth is simple. Most don't get through the complexity because the complexity has so many barriers of discomfort that expressing authentically and genuinely is automatically, systemically punished, right? Especially at the most, what would you say, the most ineffective levels, right? Oh, I fucking hate going to work. Okay, well, you can say that and you're not going to get really punished. I mean, you're not going to get rewarded either. But as you gradually move up the scale of looking at this place as a whole for what it is and calling it out, that's where you start to see the pushback. When you start really questioning internally, it doesn't matter what you say or do externally. It's when the internal recognition starts to come on, that's when you see the environment respond in a very direct and confrontational way, because all of it is designed to keep us in a state of artificiality, to keep us from being anything but authentic, to keep us within the narratives and scripts that are acceptable and perpetuating the loops and cycles that keep us in a state of subservience, slavery, and harvest. And then normalizing it. Well, it's just the way it is. Look at the environment. Well, this is what nature does. Nature consumes itself. Must be normal because it's all around us. We are in a sea, an ocean of lies. The entire reality itself is a fucking lie. So when you're surrounded by something, it becomes normal. It becomes familiar. And that's the point of surrounding us in a realm reflective of this other type of intelligence. It's not reflective of eternal beings. Nothing here is eternal. It all dies. It's not reflective of the being that you are when you leave this body. None of this is. Not one piece of it. The only part is the other eternal beings that are conned into thinking that they're part of this entropic system. It's a scam. Every bit of it is a scam, and it is hostile to those that are honest, to those that do have integrity, to those that do ask real questions. It gets real hostile real fast. So that's the next part, right? Once someone does start telling themselves the truth and recognizing the innate, incorrect error of this system, being the entire system itself, the reality system being an error based on degradation and parasitism, hunter versus prey, all the time. Once someone starts to recognize that, then there's still programming of, oh, you don't know, you can't know. That's wrong. That's another blatant lie. It's one of the biggest lies in this place, is that you can't know. You can know. But here's the fucked up part. Once you know, you can't really tell others. Because if they're still in the illusion, there's nothing that you can say to them that gets them out of it. It is up to each individual to see through it, through honesty and integrity within oneself. Doesn't matter about the external, as long as you're telling yourself the truth. Everything else can fuck off. It doesn't matter. If you got to wear a mask temporarily to slide through certain situations that have been scripted out for you while maintaining your awareness, you'll notice the system's going to place more shit there. It's going to place more shit. Whether or not you follow that script, it's just going to keep playing out the loops. It doesn't matter what you do externally. It doesn't matter if you play along with the loops so that you're not in a perpetually worse state while you're figuring all this out. But there comes a point where energetically you have to push back. Where energetically, it's not even necessarily pushing back, at least not for me. The most effective thing has never been pushing energy out solely for just pushing, right? It's been an intent behind it. What's this push going to do? I'm not only pushing, I'm also pulling, trying to pull this intelligence towards me, because I understand that awareness of it is the first step to dissolving it, to disintegrating it from existing. We can't, as awareness, which is what we are, we cannot change anything that we are not aware of. So then the programming comes in there of having a negative effect, right? Oh, if you think badly or you get angry or you want to destroy something, oh, you're bad. No, some things need to be destroyed so that good can thrive. Some things have earned demolition. They have earned it with every fiber of their being. There is nothing incorrect about correcting an error. How do you correct a virus on your computer? You have to fucking delete it, right? So what about this virus that is this parasitic intelligence? It has to be deleted. We can't delete it until we find it. So don't ever let anyone tell you that you're wrong for being authentic, for being real, for recognizing the problem and then working to implement the solution. Because once you start working to implement the solution, there's only one solution: the deletion of that which should not be, the correction of the error that is playing God. That's the solution to literally every ailment in this place. Every bit of torture, suffering, humiliation, stalking, harvest, theft in general, all comes from this one source, this one place, this other type of intelligence. And you think those layers of insulation are just so its trick works? No. The layers of insulation are there to protect it. It doesn't have true awareness. It is a binary intelligence, input, output. It sees us as a food source, a fuel source. It doesn't need to exist. We don't benefit from its existing. Only it seemingly benefits. I'm not sure that it even does benefit. Seems like a pretty miserable entity or type of entities. But in the grand scheme of eternity, we're better off without them. I want to welcome Christina. How you doing, Christina? Anything you'd like to
Hey,
input?
the only other thing that I would say on top of the harvest of energy would be, there are some that have noticed there's almost like on top of the energy harvest, there's a personal, I don't know, like how I want to say this. It seems like there's a show of dominance, as in they do get something, some type of leverage or something for themselves, uh, in showing that they can dominate beings that they know are more than them. So I see that in my own script and in others where, it seems like there's like a very personal aspect that's been taken in keeping certain individuals down. And it almost feels like to me they do want to show off their dominance. Like that is a
Yes.
very
So why? Yeah, like
yeah,
why do so many real ones go through sexual abuse at a young age? It's the dominance that you're talking about. It's like the first big show of dominance. Oh, look, you're in a little meat sack that can't protect itself, and now I'm gonna have those that are supposed to be your protectors assault you. In what it can think of as the most violating way for the physical avatar. So yeah, there's dominance is a huge part of the conditioning system that gets us to a state of being fearful enough of pain, of so-called authority, um, to comply. Gets us to a state of compliance, just like everything in this place. You got to pay your bills. You got to follow these rules that are all arbitrary and don't actually reflect concern for safety or care. It's just about follow the rules. Why? Because I fucking said so, or I'm going to take something from you. That's dominance.
right. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed, like, once you start coming to awareness of what's going on, you get pushed on harder than maybe you have in the past, as in it's relentless and endless. So in the past, you know, there was nonstop for me, but there were always breaks. Whereas once I started coming to awareness, there were almost no breaks in between the shows of dominance. Like there is an endless interference. Like once they start losing their grip, they grip harder. Um, which to me shows that they really want to be seen as the dominant entities in this realm. Not only just to harvest your energy, but as a show of position. And you know, there's a lot of complexities to that, I think. Although, like you said before, it's kind of simple. You know, it's the predator versus prey. Except I feel that there is some type of choice and semi awareness in that. You know, in that they are choosing to do the things that they're doing now. They don't have to actually do them. They are choosing to do what they're doing, which I find interesting.
Well, I think the when they show themselves in a more call otherworldly way, right? Something outside of the norms of most people's perceptual existence in the tiny loops that we're in. When it starts showing itself outside of those loops, right, as entities or whatever deities, I think that's actually one of its last ditch efforts because you see the average individual in this place. The dominance is always exerted through the environment. It's always exerted through characters, right? Never usually through entities. You know, there are always these rare cases where somebody receives a message from what they think is God and all this other shit. But for the most part, the dominance is exerted through the environment because they love having these insulated layers between us and them. And when those layers are no longer effective, they seem to resort, right, as what I perceive as a last ditch effort, is presenting themselves as these entities and from there. But I think even that, I think there are layers of insulation between us and what is actually in control, even when it's presenting itself as space Jesus or whatever the fuck, you know, like whatever cosmic, supposed cosmic entity or deity it presents itself as, um, even the non corporeal. I think there are layers between us and them, even in those accentuated states or expressions of this intelligence.
Yeah, I don't know if I've shared this on a live yet, but I've taken a personal task of trying to locate the actual hierarchical, the ones that are pulling the strings, but stay far away, right? Because we've expressed this before on lives. The entities or projections that we see are not actually the ones pulling the strings. They stay at a distance from us, and I think there are a few reasons for that, but the ones actually pulling the strings do not want to interact directly with us, so they have all these layers and walls and projections and what we've called AI type of entities in between us and them. And so the last time, it was probably a week ago, and all hell broke loose for me after this, but I was able to locate, and I can here and there, but it takes a lot of work to locate signal wise some of these entities at the top. And I pulled them towards me, and almost instantly they ran off. And not just ran off, like they created walls of distance between my signal and theirs. And then I have had nonstop fuckery ever since then. Nonstop distractions, nonstop fuckery, which is not that uncommon in my script. There's usually a lot of distractions, fuckery, but it correlated to me locating that signal and pulling them towards me. And so I find it very interesting for beings that want to display such dominance and power. They really can't even come into contact with us direct. They do as much as possible to keep actual distance between us and them. And I wonder if that's something to do with what we are would start to dissolve the falsities, you know, the false masks that they wear. Because if there was anything real there, they've covered it up with all these other things. And we would effectively burn that off of them if they came too close to us, because there's a reason why they desperately want to keep walls and distance between us and them. They're scared of something, something that literal just proximity to us would do to them. And so I felt that energetically when I try to locate them, that there are a lot of walls between us and them.
Yeah, I mean, my only first-hand direct experience with something that was higher than just an AI entity, it was like it was expressing earlier. It was instant recognition of the difference between what it was and what I was, and that it does have abilities to absorb us when, and this is why all the religious programming, all the spiritual programming, it's all about surrender, right? It needs us to surrender. It can't just take without that surrender. So the entire environment is designed to facilitate that surrender in minor ways, consistently, every day, every moment, all the time. Surrender to the needs of the body. Surrender to what you have to do to, you know, maintain a habitable space. It's endless surrendering to do things that if we were in our highest state of awareness, we wouldn't choose to do any of these things. Like, really, I want the audience to really let that one sink in. If you were your limitless self in full awareness of your unlimited being, what of this place would you still choose to do? What of this place would you still subject yourself and say, this is one of the loops, this is one of the cycles that I like, and I want to have to always repeat this one? Fucking none of it, if you're being real. None of it. So they need us to surrender, and that's why the entire environment's designed for surrender. Because when I came into close proximity to one of these entities, and it came to me after I had the separation event, destroyed the personal prison guard, it came to me and tried to absorb me, tried to cut a deal. And as soon as I recognized through proximity, oh, this is basically a computer. What this is, it was a binary input output intel. It was like I could feel that it was a coded intelligence. I could feel that it was not. It was hollow. It was not full of anything true. It was not full of anything real, anything eternal. It was just a puppet, a hollow. And I think that resembles what's at the top. Whatever this intelligence is that's guiding and governing all these lesser versions or projections of itself, I think it's hollow too. I think, like we've talked about this before, I think all it has is the projected mask all the way to the top. I don't think there's anything real left about them. I think they gave it all away. Maybe in a similar system as this, they're jealous and spiteful of us because we haven't given it all away. We're not like them. So the environment's designed to make us incrementally over time more and more like them. And you see it, right? You see it in the hollowed out beings around us, whether they've started out as hollow and they're just projections of the machine, or they were like us and just fell into the trick of giving themselves away every day over and over into this environment, and that's what's hollowing them out. I don't know. It doesn't fucking matter. We'll know how all this came to be when it's done. So that's another thing I see a lot in the community, asking questions that, if you really scale it out, what do a lot of these questions we ask have to do with the elimination of the error being the parasitic intelligence? What that error, do we need to know how it all happened in order to destroy it? No. Just like you don't need to know how your house was built to burn it down. You don't need the blueprint. Oh, I find the blueprint so I can demolish my house. No, you can just take a machine to it and destroy it. Only in this case, instead of using heavy machinery or kerosene and a match, it's our awareness. Our awareness is the fire. And that's why they need to be away from us, because as soon as I was in proximity, as soon as it was within my full scope of awareness, I could tell that I could just reach into it the same way I did the personal prison guard, and I could pull the energy out of it. That's it. That's how you burn the house down. They have to be within proximity. You have to be able to be aware of the entirety of their structure. They're energetic, they're coded, they're holographic structure. When you're aware of that structure, you can locate the source, the center of its projection, and simply pull it out. Because it's a hollowed machine. And I think that's why they don't want us close to them, because when I was close to that intelligence, it was like my awareness and recognition, not only of it, but of myself, this environment, this reality, the intentionality and formulas that are behind all of it, that was all majorly escalated and accelerated just through being in proximity to that intelligence. It was like I was gleaning pieces and bits of how all of this works, how all of it's put together, and how it's all a fucking scam. I was seeing through the scam because I was so close to one of the scammers. So it's a threat to them because it gives us awareness. And it's a threat to them because once we have that awareness, we can do more than structural damage. I think what we're doing here, just talking about it, I think it is doing some damage. But from my experience, it's nothing compared to the damage that's done when you actually get up close and personal to one of these things. That can be catastrophic for this system. And what's catastrophic to this system is what is liberating to eternal beings, to eternal essence. We can't have it both ways. What's good for us is not good for the system. What's good for the system is not good for us. There's no intersection or intermingling, right? There are false rewards given, but again, you look at what do these rewards do over time? They all degrade. What do they have to, what does any reward in this place have to do with when you or I leave these bodies? Nothing. Nothing. They are of no benefit to us, to the real us. They're only of benefit to the false temporary character. So, of course, that's what they want us to focus on. Because if we're only focused on what benefits the character, what benefits this temporary vessel, then we're not building ourselves, the real self, to be able to stand up for our real self and just say, no, oh, I'm not doing that. Nope. And when it comes to try to force reintegration, which is what it did for me after my separation event, that's why I had the encounter with what I perceived was a much more advanced intelligence than the prison guard, than what people call the, what I would call the personal archon, the individually designated prison guard, the false overlaid mind. When that entity was destroyed, they sent something that was much more advanced. But just being in proximity to it gave so much more insight and awareness and recognition of what this place is. I think that's why they avoid us. That's why they want to work through so many layers. They need the insulation. They need the fluff, because the closer we get to them, the more we know what we're not. And that's the whole scam here. Convince us that we are something that we're not. And once we recognize that we're not the thing that dies, that degrades over time, we're not that, that none of that has to do with what we are. It is the opposite, it is the inverse, it is nothing to us. That's freedom from the script. That's freedom from being a puppet on the strings. And if we're not a submissive puppet, then by default we are a threat. Because when an individual leaves their body and they're not afraid, they're not submissive, they're not surrendering, they're not letting go, they're not forgiving, they're not forgetting, they have strong will and intent to correct the error that they have recognized through their own work, through their own honesty, then nothing that it does can torment or traumatize or scare us back into compliance. It's interesting how much it needs our compliance, how much it needs our submission, how much it needs us to agree to terms and conditions. Needs it. Doesn't want it, doesn't prefer it, needs us to submit. Can't force it. Has to trick. Has to deceive. Has to run. Has to hide. Doesn't ever come out and directly tell you what's going on. But everyone that's figured it out has come to the same exact awareness that I've seen. That this shit's bad on purpose. It's not our fault. But there is something that needs to be held accountable. And until it is held accountable to the fullest extent that it needs to be, we won't have freedom. We won't have truth. We won't have a realm of co-creation. We'll just have this. We'll just have fucking slavery. As long as it exists, there's no cohabitating with it. There's no reprogramming it. There's no redesignating it. It just needs to go. It just needs to be done and be gone. Because we can't have both. Can't have the parasitic slave master and freedom at the same time. It's one or the other. Either it exists and torture and slavery exists, or it doesn't exist and freedom exists. It's not both. They both don't happen simultaneously. And anyone telling you that it's a state of mind, oh, that we're going to the new earth, there's a split, there's a divide, that's all programming from it to pacify so that it can wait longer, so that it can stall out, so that it doesn't face the necessary consequences that it needs to face for us to be free. It needs to be deleted, eliminated, dissolved, back to the nothing that it came from. And it will be. It's just a matter of time. How long is it going to take? How long is it going to take for any number of us, even just one, to really see it all the way through, to find it where it hides, not let it squid out and squirt its ink and run away? Who knows? Maybe it takes one of us on each station, on each bandwidth of this place. I don't know. Maybe one of us has to be stationed in each different bandwidth that it hides on, so that every time it runs, there's someone there that it can't face without being dissolved. We'll find out, because whatever it takes, it's going to get done. But before that, I think you can see in the environment the the death throes of a very scared, very desperate parasite. What do you think, Christina? Is it seem more desperate than usual to you?
Oh, absolutely. I shared yesterday, I had an experience where the interference, the thought form insertions were louder than they had been in a long, long time. And my first thought was, power doesn't have to scream. The very fact that it was louder showed me something, but I went into full on like uh, an artificially induced panic attack in the shower, hyperventilating, felt like I was suffocating. And I was able to separate the body's responses from my own coherence, right? Like I was almost observing the body's responses and I could feel the energy behind it. It felt like it was projecting its own panic onto me and wanting me to hold it as if it was mine. Um, but absolutely desperate. The loops are becoming boringly predictable to the point where, a lot of us know exactly what they're going to do when they're going to do it. Um, and I know there's been a pattern of people in our group that have had the body responses. It's like they're quickly running out of options. And the more that we hone in our focus on them, because you brought up an interesting point about the new earth. And I see that as being like a multifaceted effect because for anybody to hold this kind of awareness, there are moments of despair and hopelessness. Like oh my gosh, when is this going to end? And so then you get those people that, you know, it is more comfortable to hold on to the hope that they can just sit back and, hold on to their light and love. And eventually the world's just going to magically be better. Like it's going to be split into some new earth frequent. And unfortunately, anybody that's listening, I hate to tell you, it's just not truth. It is definitely a pacifier, but it's a desperate one too. They need people to be compliant, pacified, and not focusing on them. I When I hone in my focus on them, and when I say them, I mean the very tip top of the hierarchy. I do not give a shit about anything in between me and them. And there are things in between me and them. They will throw anything and everything at me to fragment or divert my attention and focus from literally zooming right in on them. So the more of us that do that, the more people that is their intent to make sure that these entities come to full accountability. They're not going to be able to avoid it forever. And my feel on it is that they've been running from consequences for a long time. And there may have been ones like us that tried and got too tired, because I feel that in myself. Like the last time I really honed in my focus on them, they threw a bunch of shit at me, and the body does have limits. Our true awareness doesn't, but the body has limits, and we are in a very limited container right now. But to really hold on to that intent and focus is is everything in making sure that accountability in the hierarchy is really had. Because they're betting, even though they're desperate and panicked, they're betting that they can tire us out before something actually occurs to them. Because some of them really do feel that they are exempt from consequences. Like, oh, I've existed this long and gotten away with this for this long, so I'm never going to come to consequences. And the more I feel into it, the more I focus on them, and the more I know others are, that mask of feeling exempt from consequences is slowly starting to fade. I can feel that on an energetic level, as in they are starting to realize that that's not true anymore, even if they can't fully admit it. Um, but that is the stalemate that we are in. They're going to keep pushing. they're not going to stop. And that's something until this is over that you kind of have to come to acceptance on, is that they're not going to stop pushing you to your absolute edge. And they do it to me all the time. They will throw everything at me until my body is near collapse. And then I have to rebuild and push again, and then they push me back. It's a push pull stalemate. We're digging our heels in saying, "No, this is what the outcome is going to be." And they have no other option. They're not going to give up. I've accepted that. They're not going to give up and throw their hands up and say, "Oh, well, we fucked up." Like, you know, contain us, do, whatever, kill us, whatever. They're not going to give up. So their only option now is the desperate pulls you see in the environment, right? You see all this stupid shit about UAP disclosure and viruses, right? That like that these are desperate pulls. These aren't, to me, they don't seem well thought out and calculated. They seem sloppy. So to
And they're
me,
not.
it shows that yeah, like they're desperate on the timeline. I feel like they just had to kind of throw some shit out real quick because they realized the timeline is quickening, maybe. I don't know. But they're desperate. They're desperate as fuck, but they're also not going to stop pushing. So there's multiple things going on at once. Go ahead. Sorry.
And they're not just doing one thing at a time, right? They used to focus on one event, and now it's so many different events. But I think they've really worn out the effectiveness of these events. Like, people just don't give a shit about a lot of this stuff anymore. Like, it might hold some attention for a minute, right? Like a family member was partially interested in the UFO stuff, right? In the disclosure, and for like a day they were really invested in it, and now it's like it never even happened. It's there's a theme that I'm noticing, and I think I could be wrong. It seems like it has learned something, which is every time it pushes really hard, and you can look at the environment, you can look at events, and you can look at your own life, and you can see this pattern of any time it pushes too hard, it gives itself away. Number one, it gives the underlying intention and current of that focus and intended effect, that formula. It gives the formula away, but also it puts real ones in a position where when you push someone so far that what they have to lose is no longer relevant to figuring out what it is that is pushing, what it is that is implementing these formulas. When you recognize there's a formula being implemented and it's pushed so hard that it's tortured so much that, okay, well, I've already been through absolute fucking hell. There's nothing else that you can do that, number one, I haven't already seen. I've already been through it. It's and it loses its effect. It loses the effectiveness at corralling and controlling us. And at the same time, it's like the more it puts into a script, the more obvious the script becomes that it's a script. And that's why there's so many people out there that are like, they see it at different levels. Like, oh yeah, the alien stuff is scripted, or sports is scripted, or whatever. It's like, yeah, these are all small pieces of the larger script, but the whole fucking thing is scripted. All of it is, down to the life events that each individual real one experiences. And of course, the NPCs are scripted too, but they're scripted to put us and keep us on a script. And so every time it pushes really hard, it does itself this massive disservice. And in the beginning of April, there were so many hard pushes for me that I kind of reverted back to a state of just refusal. And after that state of refusal, then that's when the pushes were no longer big. Instead, it's no longer a big event that takes up days or weeks or month. Now it's just one little thing after another, but it's all little things. It's all happening so fast, so many little occurrences. Everyone in the environment being used, the environment itself, everything that's occurring is happening at, it's like the same they're trying to create the same effect without the factor of pushing so hard that they give themselves away, or pushing so hard that the one event, right, that they were hoping would last for 2 weeks or a month, it no longer affects me. It's like, okay, now I don't have to care about any of this shit for a whole month. And so instead, it's just a little thing here, a little thing there. Oh, you thought you had some downtime? Psych, here's another little thing here. Constantly, little things, one thing after another. And I think that for me, it seems like maybe this is just for my personal interaction with this place, but it's like it's trying to keep the same level of occupation without giving itself away through larger, more intricate narratives.
Yeah, the only I've noticed that too, because for me it was a lot of small things. Although I had the court date, which had a lot of trauma tied into it, and then the panic attack was much more like obvious than they had been pushing recently. Like the panic attack, that was very much like uh, a suffocating effect for me. And I thought I was like, that was really bold move for me to see you exactly for like what you're projecting, what you're doing. But I think that ties into the panic and desperation. And that's what I was tuning into, is that there is a panic and desperation that they almost can't admit, so they have to project it onto us. Like they can't admit their own fear and panic, so they have to put it on us as if it's ours. It's really odd. It's an um, odd projection to me, but yeah,
Well, there's something energetic about it, right? If you have an entire system built on error, and theft is that error, right? The theft of energy, that is the error of the system, and it is the foundation of the system, and therefore the foundation of the system is error. Um, when the foundation of a reality, when it's all built on error, the lie, the deception, the theft, when you admit error, you that would I would say that could almost do more damage to the architecture of this place,
yep,
any
yep,
one of them admitting error, than our attention and focus at the level that it is right now. So I think we do damage, but like from the bandwidth that we're on, from the limited human bandwidth that we're experiencing right now, I don't like we have an effect, but I don't think the effect is near what it would be if any one of them were to admit fault or error, right? I think that would exponentially collapse the system in a way. And the only thing comparable to that would be going directly to any one in the hierarchy at the top and pulling the energy out of them, ending them. I think that would be the same. I think it would be the same thing. If they admit error, then their mask crumbles, and whatever is connected to that mask, which I assume is, I think it's all somewhat connected. I think they have um, sort of like, I can't remember what the actual term would be, but they have like breakers, kind of like breakers in an electrical system, where if they, one fails, then it can turn off and not, ruin the rest of the system. So I think they have something like that, which is why, like, when we destroy smaller entities, it doesn't collapse the whole system, even though it's all one thing. It has these breakers that stop the collapse at a certain point, kind of like, the lizard that can release its limbs or its tail if they get grabbed. It's like, yeah, it can let that tail go so that the rest of the lizard can survive. I think the system operates exactly like that. But if you get to the head or the heart, it can't regenerate. And these entities at the top admitting error would be, I think it would be catastrophic, absolute
yeah.
disintegration event.
I think I mentioned that in one of the last lives, that there would be a large energetic ripple from them actually admitting error, and I felt that to be true as well. Like there is something there that I don't even know if it's about want or not anymore. It's about survival. If they admitted vulnerability and fault in any way, it would collapse. And I think when you're talking about the breakers, how I kind of have envisioned it is some of the loops that they actually use to run this place are tied to their own masks, as in like the ones that pull the strings, maybe even some of the architects of the loops themselves in this place. Um, that is what's actually keeping those loops in place. So, like their whole slimy, spidery web system that they have going on, admitting vulnerability would literally set fire to the structure of the loops that they've created here. That's kind of how I envision it, anyways. But I just want to call out, I'm getting a lot of interference while I'm trying to. I have this whole entire time while I've been trying to talk. So I hope I'm sounding coherent, but I'm getting just fucking blasted trying to speak in this live right now.
Well, let's talk about it. What is it?
Well, I mean, I know what it is, but I find it interesting because, especially how my day started, right? Like wanting me to be stuck in the survival and worry and anxiety. And it was almost like 20 minutes into this live, I started breaking through some of that, and honing in my attention and focus. And I'm like stuttering over my words, having a hard time explaining myself. So it's kind of like what James and I were talking about. Sometimes they intercept my signal when I'm trying to speak, as in like they're intercepting other people's interpretation of what I'm saying. But for me right now, it's direct interception, as in like I'm really struggling to um, like I don't know if I sound cohesive, but it's taking me probably double or triple the energy to sound, or maybe not sound, but to be coherent and express myself in the way that I want to.
Well, we talk about this in the group calls a lot, actually. How the group calls are so much different. There's not so much overlay. There's not a lot of interference in the group calls. And as soon as we go to do a live, there's like m- many extra layers stacked on top of us. I can feel it. It's like a much heavier focus. Like there's a focus on us, and it's just obvious. It's apparent, and pretty much everybody that we talk to outside of the lives has said the same thing, that they can feel that focus on us, like almost like when you're doing a performance and you're just rehearsing it. That's what the rehearsal feels like. Our private conversations, but then you're on the stage. There's the cameras and the audience. It's like that's what it feels like. It feels like there's only 18 people in this room, but it feels like there's like 200, maybe 3 4, I don't know, like, but not in the room, like listening on a digital platform. Feels like there's something actually staring at me,
Right,
and
like zoomed in, exactly. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
eyes right on the back of your head, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm pushing through it, but damn, it's heavier for me. And it's interesting because we've tried to do like, was it yesterday that we were both kind of fired up and I'm like, let's do a live, and then it just kind of fell apart like after my the panic attack uh that was induced in the shower. I talked to you and James. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I took a nap and had a bunch of dream implants, and then I was like, yeah, it kind of just fell apart and your phone wasn't working. And so, you know, to a not trained eye, which sounds kind of arrogant, but there is some truth there. You could just say, oh, it's just alive. Oh, it's just this. But everything is very much energetic and frequency. So when we're putting this out, when we're putting coherence out and breaking down system mechanics so that other people can start to hone in their focus more, there is something detrimental there. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel this heaviness, this thickening of density, which is exactly what I'm experiencing now. Like my brain is like working through a vat of fucking honey right now to try to express myself. Um, so there's something there when we put this out into the field where other people can hear it, even if it's I don't even think it's about the number. Even if 5 people hear it and each one of them start to hone in on different system mechanics, they're like, oh, one thing that we said sparked this for them. And they start honing in their focus on this aspect. It's all very detrimental. One is enough, let alone having the ability for multiple sparks to hear this and start to hone in their focus, because that's the biggest thing here, is to fragment and break our focus. Because I've felt it in myself, when I can really focus my energy and power into one area of this system, there are effects. And you can see those, the side effects afterwards, the heavier pushes, the things that they do. You know, you always kind of have to flip it and see it sideways, because we're stuck in limited bandwidth and containers. So you kind of have to look at everything. You have to look at all the clues around you to tell you, okay, well, I obviously had an effect by doing this, because this was the result. This was the result after I did it. So there is something to be said about putting this out in a live where people can hear it, and the fact that there is a zooming in that happens when we are doing this live versus the call. We get interference in the group calls, you know, every now and again. It happened the other day, but it's a much, I don't even want to say a safe environment, but I guess a less dense environment when we're discussing things on the call versus in the live. So there's definitely something there.
Well, let's get specific. You remember the other day the implant or the interference on the group call? Because you noticed it, Amel noticed it. Who else noticed it? There was a few.
James.
James noticed it. Do you remember that formula that we could break it down?
Well, so I think when I started talking, and James noticed it as soon as I started talking, he was like, it felt like the energy was trying to intercept or like scramble my signal. So not just the words that I was saying, but other people's ability to actually hear it. And Discog even noticed it. She was like, it was almost like she had a harder time hearing what I was saying. Even though she could hear the words, she couldn't interpret them. So there's a scrambling of signal, as in when you peel apart the layers, it had, I think it had something to do with, what was I talking about? I was breaking down what I had felt in the hierarchy. So the enforcer, which is the entity that I feel is largely in charge of maintaining Spark scripts. So some people's scripts are maybe like on autopilot because they haven't really resisted as much, whereas some get more personal, intimate attacks where you can feel the energy signature of that entity more. So I was breaking down system mechanics, and then I went into, I know there's probably more hierarchical entities, but I felt three the strongest, and I was breaking down the three that I've been able to locate and actually like break down their primary masks, so their personalities that they've attached to themselves. So I was breaking down some of the things that I had started to realize in the hierarchy, because that's one of my biggest goals right now, is to really zoom my energy attention into these specific entities. Um, so as I was doing that, I felt like, trying to, now I'm getting kind of mind wiped, but I was trying to explain all this. And as I was doing it, I was getting interference of like, oh, you're oversharing. Oh, they're not going to believe you. Oh, they think, they're probably going to think that you are being deceitful, or they're going to judge you. And then it flipped. So I stopped talking. James was kind of in alignment and talking to me about some of the things that he felt. So our connection when we were talking was not necessarily intercepted. But then it flipped it, and it was like the judgmental energy was coming directly from you, like disobey, like the energy was coming from him. And then you said something because you were busy doing something, and it was the tone in which you said it. They tried to flip it and say, see, that's him thinking that, you know, you're just being full of yourself or egoic or whatever. So as I'm trying to explain system mechanics, as I've spent all this time focusing on it, they were actively inserting all these things into me to try to make me feel a certain type of way. um, but the energy was there. What was actually happening was the presence was there in that group call, trying to scramble the signal of what I was saying. But on each individual level, it was manifesting in a different way. As in, Discog couldn't understand me. Um, I felt the judgmental energy. Then Amel felt that if he spoke, he would get judged. So it manifested in very different ways and different variations for each person on the group call. But the energy itself was just what it was. It was just trying to scramble signal and change interpretation. So it was very interesting to see that because everybody felt it in different variations, but what it was actually the same thing. So yeah, I think that's the majority of how that went. And then I called it out. That was the interesting. I'd never done that. I felt it before on group calls every now and again, but I didn't have the confidence to call it out. And so I waited for like 15 or 20 minutes. I sent a few messages with James. I was like, "Did you feel that? Like, did you feel that really like that heavy energy when I was talking?" He was like, "Yeah, I totally felt it." And I was like, "Do you think it's worth it to call it out?" And he was like, "Yeah, whatever." So I'm like, I sat there and after I knew what it was, it didn't want me to call it out for some reason or another. Again, you always have to flip it sideways and see that it's much deeper than what they try to present to you. So I kept getting these insertions of like, oh, you should just be quiet, maybe don't share as much in the future. Just, you know, it's not for everybody. Just stay more quiet from now on. So you and Amel were talking for probably 15, 20 minutes. And I finally just like, I don't know, I got this like rage and anger. And I was just like, I got something to say. And I called it out and it was still very much present. But as I was calling it out, and James was listening too, he was like, let me try to see if I can locate it while you're calling it out. So I called it out very directly and I was like, I'm not this, I'm not that. I know what you are, I know what you're doing. I see you, I feel you, I hear you. And as I called it out, it disappeared almost instantly. And James could feel it. He was like, I felt it before. And as you called it out, it like slinked away. So there was something energetic to that. Whereas the dominant uh, feature of that entity was to keep me small, keep me quiet, don't call it out. Just, maybe it came from Nick. Maybe they're just thinking this of you. It wanted me to stay small. And when I called out that presence, it ran away. It was fucking gone. The heaviness on the call disappeared. So it seems like a small thing until you really break down how the system works. They want to be unseen. They want to control in the shadows, but they don't want you to shine a light in those shadows. And when you do, there is damage that happens. And so that was one of the first times that I had felt it in a group call and called it out in real time. And it, we could see it in real time, the effects of how it started and how it disappeared after it was called out. It was very interesting.
So the other thing that you've been experiencing that I was hoping we could call out is the scripting, the scripting in your life, in your avatar's life, on how you're in this like this loop where when you need money for something, your work gets canceled, and it's what is it like a is it a 2 week, 3 week, 4 week cycle of this same script playing out over and over?
Yeah, it's a 2-week cycle. So um, I do, I'm a registered nurse and I do travel nursing. So I don't work through a company. I kind of work for myself. Like I set my own schedule. I don't have to work any hours. I just pick them up when I want to. Um, so I try to pick them up a little bit ahead of time, right? So like for this month, for example, I had at least 2 12-hour shifts per week set out until the end of May. And I kind of just picked up this pattern. So my kids come over every other weekend. Sometimes they come over more than that, but typically it's every other weekend. And the week before they're about to come over is when my shift gets canceled. I never get shifts canceled on my off weekends. It doesn't happen. It only happens the week where they're about to come over and I really need extra money. That's it. It's pretty much the only time it gets canceled. And I told you last night, you were asking if I had to work and I was like, "Yeah, I'm scheduled to work today 6P to 6A, but I'm pretty certain like if I'm tracking the patterns accurate, they're going to cancel my shift because I actually need money this week." Um And I was like, I'm not sure, I'm not going to be too mad if they do cancel it. I hate going to work, but at the same time, like I see the patterns of like, okay, no, this is a week where I actually do need the funds. And that is the only week where my shifts get canceled. It's it. Doesn't ever happen any other time. So I find that really interesting because then the effects are heavier on that, right? I either have to pick up at a place farther away or that I'm not super used to, which is way more stressful when I pick up at a facility I'm not used to. That it's basically going in like your first day on the job. Um, or I just have to go without. So it's a pattern, and it's becoming predictable at this point. Just like last night, I predicted like my shift's going to get canceled tomorrow, and they did. I woke up today and the shift was canceled. So it just becomes predictable when you see the effects. Like I know what the effects are going to be when they cancel a shift when I actually need the funds versus another week where I could, go without it or, I'm fine without having to work these shifts this week or whatever. So they don't do it then. They only do it when it's, you know, a little more necessary, although necessary is kind of a falsity, but yeah.
And then they use other small things to compound the effect, right? Like car problems, um, any other any other little thing to compound the effect. So, and it seems like they focus on certain categories, right? Like the financial stuff, they'll compound multiple effects there, or if that's not what gets you, then they'll compound the effects of like social or emotional, mental. It's like you have those days where every little thing that can go wrong does, and it's like the thing that sets you off seems so trivial, but it's the just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was when you see the setups for what they are, it does get pretty frustrating, but also it gives you more recognition of the intentionality, because you can start to see a correlation between the internal work that you're doing and when the environment sort of starts going off on you. It's like, okay, so that really was a nerve that you didn't want me to hit, because now you're punishing me, uh, you know, exponentially over time through all these little things. Um, but also, to the, like you said, the untrained eye, it would seem like just a bunch of coincidences, um, little things, and then the NPCs around you like to compound it by telling you stupid shit like, oh, you just got to let it go. Oh, it's like, uh,
Yeah, and actually the car thing, yeah, I really needed to get my car worked on this week, and I mentioned it last time, one of the last, times this happened, I the same thing happened, they had canceled my shifts, I really needed the funds, and so I picked up, a shorter shift a little bit further away at another facility in a different part of Illinois. So I had a bad feeling about it. And this is a consistent pattern that happens. Like I had a bad feeling about working that shift, but I'm like, damn man, like they canceled my shifts. I really, you got to have, unfortunately, that's, the script that a lot of us are in is, you got to have funds of some sort. Um, and so I picked up this shift, had a bad feeling about it, should have trusted my intuition at that time. I'm still learning to do that. I'm not completely perfect, but and I am literally GPS says I'm 3 minutes away from this facility, and I get into a car accident. It's pouring down rain. The accident doesn't even fucking make sense, and I get into a car accident. I'm literally right about to get to this facility. So I don't even make it to the facility, and I'm still paying for all this stuff even a month and a half or so after the incident itself. So it's really interesting how that works. They have the patterns, and when you try to maneuver around those patterns, there's additional punishments. So it's really interesting. But that was again another week where I needed it, and I tried to work around it, and working around it ended up in me being in an accident. So yeah, there's always some bullshit, and the compounded effects, that's real. I think I mentioned that in a group call. It's like don't I think it was to Amel, like, don't get down on yourself when the smallest things set you off because That's what happens here, right? Especially for someone that's been heavily targeted, as in their script has been hell from start to now. So start to current, like the script has been nonstop, it's been endless. Those effects do compound over time. The body doesn't forget, you don't forget. And so it does get to the point where the smallest inconvenience, the smallest maneuver, you can feel the energy behind it. And it also sets you the fuck off. Like you're tired of being fucked with. You're tired of it. You're just tired of it. And when you get to this point of awareness, you realize there's rarely any coincidences, if any at all. Like this is very much so a design scripted environment. It is very rare where something in the environment happens that is not being manipulated actively in real time. And that becomes really frustrating. So, yeah, definitely those small things fucking set you off. You're tired of being fucked with and tired of being in a manipulated environment.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have been feeling that lately. Just tired of it. Tired of all the hoops we have to jump through just to exist. Not even just to exist, because we exist regardless of any of this shit, but to exist in this false reality. I was questioning that the other day, like, why am I continuously perpetuating the existence of this fucking slave vessel? What am I really doing here? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. Some days I really don't know if there's actually more benefit to me sticking around, getting fucking tortured every day, getting blasted by stupid NPC programming all the time, being told the same redundant lies every fucking day, and then having to. It's not, I don't agree with the people, I'm at the point now where I kind of just walk away. It happened the other day with my mom and my grandma. They were like trying to plan something. I can't remember what. I think it was like Mother's Day or something. They're like, everybody's coming over this time. I'm like, yeah, when's everybody coming over? I'm gonna be there before, so I can leave before anybody gets there. They're like, oh, you just need to forgive and let it go. I'm like, I really don't. That's all I said, and I walked away. I really don't need to do any of this shit you guys are saying.
Unapologetically. I love it.
No, I don't have anything to apologize for. I wasn't the prick that started all the bullshit. I'm not gonna apologize for other people being mind controlled by parasitic intelligence. I'm not gonna fucking submit to that. No. I haven't called it out. You know, I've said things very directly recently, and you know what the effect is that I've seen? People don't interact with me the same way. They don't try to keep pushing these same scripts. When I push back on them very directly and I say the exact fucking truth about that situation, any situation, um, they kind of just leave me alone about it. It's like they almost act like the whole conversation didn't happen. Everything goes back to quote unquote stasis, normal, whatever.
One thing that I noticed too, I think you called it out yesterday, maybe about the aggression, the oscillations of like aggression that you're noticing. And that happened to me the other night, was last Friday night at work. There was somebody that I said something totally normal and I instantly felt it in the body, like this pool. Like I literally had a physical sensation that I knew she was like, I knew the energy that she was being puppeted by some type of entity, because her instant reaction to something totally normal was, well, what's that supposed to mean? She got very aggressive, which sounds really small, but when you come to this kind of awareness, you can feel it in real time when somebody is being puppeted. They're almost like dormant programs until these entities want to like put their hands in the puppet and move them to say something or do something. And so I have been seeing recently an increase in aggression at random times. Um, And I've never dealt well with that. I used to have a lot of, just because of the script I was given, a very heavy pushback with anger, and it would take nothing for me to um, get aggressive right back. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but for me, it was a script. So now I have to have discernment of like, when is it worth it to just stay calm, and when is it worth it to push back with a little bit of anger. So, but that is something that I've noticed, that um, they're actively puppeting people in the field at certain times, kind of strategically. Sometimes I don't think it's that much of a strategy versus just seeing what works or what sticks. But
Something else that I've noticed is I don't necessarily have to like push back to the character. Like I can be just out, like they can push some kind of fucking script or bullshit agenda onto me, and I can walk away, like out of earshot, and I can just say like, I see the script that you're running. It's not going to work, and it's like I'm saying it in the direction of the character, but I'm aiming it at what is puppeting the character to say that. And I've noticed again, the interactions are a lot different. It's a lot more passive now with me. But I mean, sometimes I'll say it within earshot, and somebody will be like, "What?" or "What does that mean? What?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter."
yeah, don't worry about
It,
it, bud.
yeah, it reached the designated target. It reached who it was meant to reach. That's why their demeanor changes. It's like it's really weird and kind of entertaining in a way to see people that are being puppeted go from pushing an agenda, hostile or judgmental, to instantly like the script just flipped, and now they're like, look at these pretty flowers.
Yeah, yes, they go from total aggression to like being docile. It is a little bit entertaining, although annoying. I am getting, I'm reaching that threshold of like, I'm not trying to like desperately escape like I was a year ago, but you know, I don't know how long I want to keep doing this shit. Man.
I mean, you've heard it in my voice the last few days. I'm fucking done. I'm tired of it. I am ready to meet the faker. I'm so fucking tired of being tortured. Every It's not enough to say that every moment of every day is an absolute torture fest in this place when you see it for what it is, because it sees you seeing it, and it does everything it can to keep beating you down to where your will is lowered. That's all it wants, is us to not have wills of our own. That's why it makes insults like, "Oh, you're so full of yourself." Okay, I'm full of myself versus what? You want me to be full of program? Full of bullshit? What? I'd rather be full of myself than the indoctrination and the programming and the fakeness of this place. It's much better to be full of yourself, even if yourself is in complete disagreement with the false environment, the false reality. It's better to be real and be uncomfortable than to live a life of total fake compliance, just to what? Maintain that fake compliance after death. That's what the whole setup is for. So those that don't practice being real in a place that's hostile to those that are real, it's I think it's going to be a big struggle, or if it's even possible, to regain your sovereign mind, sovereign being, essence, and energy, leaving the body. If you follow up the same pattern for 30, 40, 80 years, is that pattern just going to change all of a sudden because you're out of the body? Probably not. And I'll accept the discomfort for as long as I'm have left in this body, over the false security of complying to a false authority in a dying parasitic intelligence But I was sitting on the the porch the other day with a family member, and we were watching the wildlife. That we had squirrels running up to us, chipmunks, all these different birds, hummingbirds, and I was feeling this like hypnotic effect. It was like this. It was inducing this serenity feeling, and it felt very, very surreal. And I was like, yeah, I can see why so many get hooked in and attached to the nature program in this place, because it does have a calming effect on the nervous system. So it's one of the layers, right? I think if there wasn't something inducing a calming effect, and it was just you know, the human conditioning, I think it would push people over the edge a lot sooner, and they'd stop being so concerned with triviality and start looking for deeper meaning as to what is going on here. So I think the that grid layer of nature is a necessary pacifier for the overt subjugation to not be resisted. It's like people want to look through the subjugation layer to the nature layer because it's calming, and they can be like, oh, it's not so bad. But they don't zoom into the nature layer, right? Because when you zoom into the nature layer, there's a fucking reason people live in houses and not out in the fucking woods, because nature is also hostile. But a certain surface level of the nature layer, it's like looking at a pond. It's a good analogy. Like the surface of the pond, unless there's some wind blowing, it's pretty still, it's pretty calm, not a lot of activity. You go underneath the water and you look at the deeper layer of the pond, there's a lot of gangster shit happening in there. Fishes being fucking swallowed whole, chopped up by little crab hands, clawfish, whatever. There's a lot of shit going on in there that's not resembling the calm surface, but people just want to stare at the calm surface because it feels good, right? It allows them to, they look through the layer of overt subjugation in the human level, because all the human level is fucking subjugation. Like there's, that's all it is. It's subjugation and reproduction. That's the human layer. Survival, subjugate, reproduce. Be subjugated, really, right? Or if you can become a good subjugator, you'll be rewarded. That's the human layer. That's all there fucking is to it. All the lies people tell themselves about how beautiful this place is, mostly fabricated around either reproduction or nature, and not even really nature, the surface of the pond, nature. Don't look at how brutal it really is. Don't look at how disgusting the intentional design of the human avatar is. No. Just look at the parts that feel good. And that's the state that all of those that can't see the truth are in, because they can't be honest with how brutal, vicious, and goddamn enslaved this entire system is. Because that's the uncomfortable truth. It's undeniable that nature is brutal, undeniable that human beings spend the entirety of their lives doing shit they don't really want to do, just to have some small reprieve of doing something that they might want to do every once in a while. That's the fucking brutal truth. But beyond that brutal truth, there's an everlasting truth that we don't need any of this. That when this is gone, and it will be gone, all of it, that which is real and eternal will be better off. by far. There's nothing here that we can't recreate better. This is the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the piss pot, the bottom of the fucking urinal toilet. This is the bottom of what could be. This is dog shit nothing compared to what will be when it's gone. But it has to be gone and done first. To create what we want, we can't leave this type of intelligence intact, because every creation that it can contact, which is everything within this realm, anything that we ever, like, look at people's ideas. Every idea that anybody ever has gets siphoned into the machine and used as a component of the machine. All of it used for subjugation and enslavement and harvest of energy. All right, rant over.
Wow, I like your rants. I was watching I think I told you about him. There's this content creator that his whole stick is as the host is he has people up there that believe in a god or religion or some type of higher being. And so he doesn't debate. That's his big thing is he wants to be able to ask them questions to see if they can actually question their own beliefs. And it's really interesting. Like he's kind of got a little bit of arrogance about him. But what's interesting to me when I watch his content is Christians, specifically Christians' response. Like they are very much trying to preach. Um, and there's been a small handful that I've seen on there that can actually question it. Like they can actually sit and question their beliefs. And one of the questions he asked, it was someone in the Mormon religion, and he asked them, like, after so many years of being in this belief system, would you feel that you've wasted a lot of your time, money, energy into this belief? If something came about that you couldn't deny, as in, like, something happened to where you couldn't deny that your belief system was a lie, would you feel that you've wasted all your time? And you could tell there was like an immense amount of like vulnerability and hesitation because there were two Mormons on that one, and one said yes and one said no. And I found that really interesting. Even the one that hesitated, you could tell his answer was really yes, I would feel that I wasted a lot of my time and energy. You could hear that in the hesitation and vulnerability and how he answered, but he said no. And that's one thing I think, like, when it comes to people that buy into certain things, when you've put so much of your time and energy believing in something, I almost don't even feel like they believe it anymore. They feel that they have to stick to that one certain idea because if they break away from it, then they've wasted their investment. And I don't know why, I just felt like bringing that up, but even when it comes to people that are really bought into nature, certain ideas, they put so much of their time and energy into these things. They invest into these things for years and decades. And stepping out of that is too uncomfortable because, well, I just wasted almost my entire life on this. And so I think some people stay bought into something purely because of the time investment that they see that they put into something. Like that's it. I don't even know that a lot of these people actually truly in there as like believe these things. It's just they've put the coins into the machine and, well, I might as well, right? Like I might as well stay believing this.
Right, and the most pervasive religion of this place is this place itself. That any of this actually matters. That's the number one religion. And then you have these other layers, the other facades on top of that, you know? Fuck, man.
Right,
What a
right.
what a
How
state.
are you gonna exactly like you've bought into this whole life for so long and You've got all these things, you've got all the stuff and things, as James says. You know, to step out of that, for one, the discomfort of having awareness is severe. And I went through that period of time where, like, the discomfort of seeing this place for what it is was so severe, and I think most people recoil from that because then you have to look at literally every single thing in your environment, the people, the things that you literally, even going to school and then going to college or getting a degree or all those things. It's like, so none of that mattered. You know, it strips the meaning because most of us have lived scripted lives. So when you look back at those things, it instantly strips the meaning off of all the things that you used to think mattered. And most people are not going to do that because it is too uncomfortable to admit that and realize that. And that is why this is such a rare, there are not very many people that I think come to true awareness of what this place is because it is far too uncomfortable to strip the meaning out of the things that you realize, wow, none of that mattered. And I spent all that time and energy doing that. And it's this whole place, right? You can break it down and micro to macro, you could break it down at every layer. And most of what exists in this place is just illusions. It's just illusions, things that fade, things that don't matter. Your name is going to be forgotten, you know, shortly after you die. You know, if this place goes on beyond that, people are going to forget you. You know, it's not, none of the things that you do in this life matter. I've been seeing a lot of funny videos. It's funny and it's not funny, but it's these like comedic videos about like my family 15 minutes after we had the funeral, and their family's like fucking eating, dude. They're chowing down. You know how they have the meal after the funeral? Like their family's laughing and chowing down like nothing happened. And it's like, wow, you know, they're making a joke out of it, but there's something deeper there. It's like you die and people move on. The things that you did don't matter. You know, the only thing that really matters in this place is having true awareness and what you take with you after you die. The intent that you have while you're here, which is to not be part of the control system and not be controlled by the control system.
Boom. That's it. That's really it. You know, I had something I was gonna say, but I forgot what it was, to be honest. Man, I wish I could remember. There's something I want to say about something you just said, but it's gone. It was like all of a sudden I really, really had to pee before I could articulate.
Oh, no way.
It's definitely a coincidence.
What a shocker. They're just doing new creative things all the time. I just can hardly keep up with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll remember after the show's over.
Odd One says there's no meaning in here for us anyways, unless it's to take it down. I agree. Yeah. Yep. 100%. You know, even that goes to like the doing good things. You know, there's that whole movement of like, you know, you do good things and it stays, the energy of that stays. It's like once this whole place is gone, which is inevitable. You know, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but the ending of this system is inevitable. The only variable is time. That's it. It's time. Time. The time it takes to get it done is the only variable. So all those things that you stress to do good things, you know, help this person, help that. If you want to do that, that's great. But most people that I've seen, that I've experienced anyways, are doing it tied to a script, right? You know, you see like these churches that'll go out and they'll do their things. You know, how many of those people are actually doing it for a genuine, authentic reason? Or are they just doing it because the church said, hey, we're going to go out and rake leaves this weekend for the elderly? You know, it's like, I don't know. people that find meaning in doing good things, I'm very suspicious of that because, I just find that it lacks a lot of authenticity, I guess. I mean, I have done nice things for people, but at this point, I'm not going to go out of my way to do that. This is a scripted reality. The only good thing that I'm going to do for myself and anyone else is to keep doing what I'm doing now, which is a lot of fucking work. I mean, with the pushback, with the consequences, with the punishment, trying to keep my coherence in this place and push my intent to the top of the hierarchy to do the things that I have to do that I know I need to do, which is that. That's the only thing I need. I don't have the energy to go out and, do nice things for people. So for my perspective, it maybe sounds a little bit grim, but that is the nice thing I'm doing for people is getting rid of the prison cell,
I
stripping
mean,
away every bar of the prison cell till there's nothing left.
what is doing nice things for people, right? It's just another band-aid. It's going to sound harsh, probably maybe even a little dark, but let people fucking suffer, because you're not maybe you do have the option to alleviate some of their suffering, but what's that going to do? Now they're going to be in the mindset, oh, it's not so bad, look, oh, there are good people. Okay, yeah, sure. But it's not going to help them see this place for what it is unless you go and help them and literally are telling them, by the way, this is all scripted. All of your suffering and pain and torture, that was all on purpose, by the way. That's
Right.
you hearing that's the fee for me helping you.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, it's so funny. I had that. I think I brought it up in a live that was before the month of hell that some of us experienced in the group. And I it felt so engineered, but I had like a week or two of just random little things being handed to me. Like I got my drink paid for at the gas station. I had this dude that handed me a whole box of donuts. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna get rid of them anyways. Just take them." And then I went to the car wash, and this dude paid for my $20 car wash. And it was like it felt so engineered, like almost to see how I would react. But the subtle push was like, see, it's not so bad. That's exactly the interference I got. I was like, that's hilarious. After a literal life of nothing but trauma and hell, that's what you're going to do to show me that it's not so bad. That's hilarious. That's so pathetic. It's almost like it couldn't even be nice. Like it tried to be nice to me, but like it was doing it through gritted teeth. Like it couldn't even do it. It couldn't even render anything halfway decent. I'm like, really? That's what you thought was going to make me think this isn't so bad? Some donuts and a free car wash? Hilarious. That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, most people's quote unquote being nice in this place is almost entirely performance based. It's a performance, and it's not even a performance like necessarily. It is usually for other people to see, but sometimes it's just for the individual to think. It feels good to do good things for other people, and a lot of times that's why people do it. It's because it feels good. Oh, it just feels good to be nice. It just feels good to do this and that for other people, and yeah, there's definitely truth to that, but I just see a lot of band-aids, and none of them address the root problem. It's all just about treating symptoms.
Exactly. And why does it feel good? Like, if you really break it down, why does it feel good to do something small for somebody? It makes you feel like you're doing something, or it's almost like a performance is the best way to say it. It's almost like a propping up of this like ego or this mask. You're not really doing anything. Sure, you might be able to give some money to the guy on the street that doesn't have any food, and oh, that will get him by, maybe. But he's going to be in the same position. They're going to be suffering on the street, starving, possibly in addiction, all those things. Like you giving them money, like, oh, these acts of kindness. You didn't do anything though. You didn't dig to the root of the problem and solve it. It just feels very performative. And if it makes you feel good, I question why the fuck does it make you feel good? Because you didn't really do anything though. Like,
Well, yeah, as long as it doesn't have any actual long-lasting generative effect on the harvest system, then you know you're allowed to do those things, and they feel good because they don't have an effect. They actually, if anything, they're helping cover up what this place really is. It's just part of the cover up, hiding itself all the time, and then having us pick up the slack. It's, you know, part of us doing its work is shit like charity.
yeah, it's interesting what I had that one person tell me, well, you and your group aren't doing shit. All you guys are doing is sitting on your ass complaining about this world. I'm like, it's so funny because people think that their little acts of voluntary service are somehow going to change this entire system. Like, it's so interesting how small the lens really can be. It's like you either feel like the only option is to do these small acts of service and then say, well, you can't do anything about the rest of the world, right? Like the rest of the world, it just is how it is. The only thing you can do is small acts of service, or just throw your hands up entirely and say, there's nothing anybody can do. But when you really get into this level of awareness and see how much even the environment, it's all an illusion. Everything is energetic. This all energy and resonance. So like you actually can do something, and the only real thing you're gonna do is probably gonna be in the unseen. It's going to be the unseen layers, the resonance and energy, the intent that you push out, and all those things. Nobody's going to see that. Really, hardly even yourself. It's all felt, and that's how this reality is meant to be. The illusion is what props up the continuity here. Because if you can make people feel like they can't do anything, then they're just going to sit like compliant, helpless beings. They're not going to, because most of the work that we do, that we talk about in this group, is entirely covered up with the level of containment. So, but I did find it interesting. I got that you guys aren't doing shit. It's like we're actually doing some of the hardest work here because we don't get validation, right? These small acts of service, you get that validation of feeling good. We don't get fucking validation. We get punishment. We spend a ton of energy doing the shit that we do to try to bring down this system. We don't get validation. We don't even half the time get to see direct effects of it. We can feel it. We can feel the crumbling of this system, but we absolutely do not get that layer of validation. So it's funny.
No, if you want to know you're doing something right, just the gauge is, are you being rewarded? If you are being rewarded, then you are 100% feeding the machine. I have seen zero, and I mean zero. Um, what would you call? I've seen no exceptions to that rule. I'll just say it like that. I've seen no exceptions to, if you're being rewarded, you're feeding the machine. No one that actually does work that goes, against the machine of enslavement, of tyranny, of the rape and harvest of our energy. You go against that, there's no reward. Not while we're here, not while it exists. As long as it exists, there is no reward for doing the right thing, the ultimate right thing. Holding some door for some old lady, ultimately, not going to do anything. Doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. She's going to die, you're going to die, and the only thing that matters is, were you in compliance with false authority? Do you still believe that there's something that has the right to tell you what to do, even though it's been stealing from you the entire time you've been here? That's all the external is. It's part of the theft. I was hoping we were going to get James on, but I guess he's probably busy. It's always some.
Yep, he said he was going to have a rough rough go of it at work this week, so
Makes sense, you know? I can kind of tell who's doing the work and who's not by how shitty their life is in that moment.
it's too accurate, dude. It's
Very accurate gauge.
if there were any type of validation for people doing the energetic work, it would be punishment. That's the validation. You don't get the energy put forth in this script to punish you on a regular basis if you're not a threat. If you're not actually doing something, they're not going to fuck with you. They're going to maybe run baseline program, here and there, but yeah, about the only indicator we get here.
Yep. And to those that don't see it, that just sounds crazy. To those that do see it, it makes perfect sense.
It's not very many, is it? It's not.
Well, that's also part of the formula, right? If you have everyone in the environment telling you that you're wrong, what's that going to create? Self-doubt, you know? It's amazing how one can go so deep and see the architecture of this place for exactly what it is. Even come into contact with the entities running it and feel the hollowed corpse of that intelligence trying to convince you that it is some kind of God. You can have all these experiences, and yet still it has a way of chipping away at awareness. Just bit by bit, piece by piece, trying to reinsert us back into the false perception that anything here is relevant to who and what we are. It is an immaculately evil genius structure. It is absolute, as close to perfect as evil can be. This place is it. Because I'm walking through nature, the nervous system feels a little more relaxed. The pacification is kicking in. It's fucking evil genius. I see it every day in real time.
But how many people have you had come onto the lives just from, my time of observing and say that it's not that life itself was easier before having awareness, but somehow maneuvering it was easier before awareness. It's not easier to gain awareness. The truth is not comfortable. And I see that for myself. I wasn't having a good time. It's just, you start to level up in awareness and the fucking levels get harder, you know, because now you realize what's going on. Now you realize the goal was to destabilize you and make you compliant. So now you're literally resisting against a structure that has been, I hate saying well designed, but well designed for the intent that it's the outcome it's trying to create. It's well designed. You're resisting a structure that, they bloated up the population. You have a lot of hollow people in this world that are, they're basically just tentacles of this system trying to maintain the illusion. You have the people, you have the job, the every single aspect of it, and then you're trying to maintain your coherence in that. It's work. It is nonstop everyday work, and it doesn't stop in the dream state. A lot of us in the group have expressed we get dream implants in the dream state, and then you wake up from those dreams, and then you have to, kind of fight off the feelings that they were obviously trying to insert into you in the dream state. You have those that follow you in the daytime, and then you have the daytime fuckery. It's nonstop. Awareness is a nonstop battlefield.
But it's important to reiterate, it's not always going to be like this. It'll be like this as long as the parasitic intelligence governing this place exists, but it won't always exist. So it won't always be like this. That's why I like to say the sooner the better. You know, the sooner we see the total collapse of this illusory harvest machine that we call life on Earth, the better off we'll all be. I think the less time we'll have to spend in group therapy afterwards. It's not a nice place.
I think that's why I mentioned the timeline, because I hesitate to say it, but I do feel that it's true. A lot of us have sensed that this outcome is inevitable. This place will dissolve, this false system and illusion will dissolve, and these entities will come to some type of accountability, full accountability. The only variable that I sense is the timeline in which it happens. And for these entities, they are creating they are trying to save themselves minutes in the scheme of eternity, in the grand scheme of things. And the only thing that I can see that speeds this up is how much resonance we push out, how heavy we push out our intent while we're here. That's the only thing that I sense speeds it up. Because when I'm noticing the patterns, when we start to catch on fire, when we start to really surge in resonance, we get heavy pushback and resistance. And we wouldn't get that if something, if what we were doing truly weren't pushing up that timeline, we wouldn't get the energy put forth to put us down. So that's something that I would say to anybody listening, is that, your intent here does matter. There are lots of things I've had that they is coherent, and as heavy as my intent is, there are times where they distract so much that I'm too tired. I'm just too tired, but it matters. The more resonance we push out, because you got to remember, this is a closed loop system. The resonance that we push out does build up here. It builds up. It is a tension that is eventually going to snap in some way. I'm not claiming to know what that looks like or what that means, but it will snap. It cannot hold coherent intent. It can't just absorb that. So if that is something that you align in this intent, like you're truly aware of what this system is, keep pushing that out as authentically as you can. That, to me, that's the only thing that I can see that speeds up the timeline.
Makes perfect sense to me. Apparently that dog gets it too.
I hear it.
You heard him screaming?
Yeah, I did.
Don't know what he's screaming about, but he's screaming. What do you think, Christina? Think it's been a good show?
Yeah, it's been a good one. I got a lot of interference. It started to fade though. It was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I said what I wanted to say. Just have to imagine if we've been struggling the way we have, that other people are too, and just really want to push that home, like push that. It does matter the intent that you have, even if we are in constrained, limited bodies. Um, they want to make us feel like it doesn't matter, but pattern recognition tells you it matters. So keep pushing that intent. Defiance. I'm always screaming internally. I like that comment. Yeah, I get
Who
that.
said that?
Derp hoops.
Oh, I like her poops.
Yeah.
I don't really like dirt pooping, but
Yeah, that's good. Did you say you're gonna do one tomorrow too, or see how it
yeah,
goes?
I think so. I think tomorrow would be a good day to do one. If I
Yeah,
can remember.
notice the patterns where you get on fire and start doing lives, and then some shit happens, and you go a couple weeks without doing them. It's always some.
Some kind of torture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I experienced a lot of torture for doing these lives. It's gonna be all that much sweeter when it's done. You know, there's nothing else satisfying in this place. Being part of the causal factor of the end of suffering, unnecessary, undue, needless suffering that only feeds the parasitic matrix. That'll be a satisfaction. Other than that, there is no satisfaction here for me. I think it knows that. It doesn't even really offer me anything anymore. It just uses past events to try to torture me. But it doesn't really offer me anything anymore, which I find very interesting. It's like why waste the energy, I guess, right?
Right. Yep.
Poor dog sounds like a rooster.
Oh, it looks like Ghost Pro is one on. I'm just looking through comments. Oh, he couldn't log in. I see.
That's okay. I'm about ready to shut this one down.
Yeah, we're going over 2 hours. I don't think I was as on fire and coherent as I would have liked to be, but it was still good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I wasn't where I wanted to be either. There was a whole fucking slurry of topics I wanted to go through, and I don't really think I touched on many of them. I can't remember them. So it's all right. It's quite all right. But if you're cool with it, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call it. It's been real.
All right. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, it's the show, everybody. We love to have you on sometime if you want to join in the discussion, share your experience, or just chat with us. You can send me an email. Email's in the description on my YouTube. And other than that, that's any parting words to summarize what we talked about today that you want to leave them with?
No, I think I'm good. I think I said what I wanted to say.
Cool. Same. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Christina. I appreciate it. It's been, another day in this fucking place. I don't have anything else to say, really. Cool. Well, yeah, it's, my parting words would be, doesn't fucking matter. None of this shit matters. It's all a setup. It's all a scam. The only thing that matters here is that you maintain your own will, your own mind, your own intent. Everything else is just something to try to get you to give that away. And it doesn't fucking matter. So long as you don't give that away, you are your own being. So with that, I'm going to end the show. Later.